Hello and welcome, my dear friend. Some sounds are too sacred for this world to hear. They rise in moments when your strength is failing, but your spirit is still choosing. They don't echo through microphones or stages. They don't draw crowds or applause, but they shake the heavens. There are praises that are born from deep within the ache, not polished, not rehearsed, just honest. The kind of praise that says, "I don't understand this, but I'm not walking away." And that kind of worship, that's not a sound, that's a signature. Heaven has been tracking it. Every time you whispered thank you with tears in your throat, heaven wrote it down, not as a transaction, but as proof of something holy rising inside of you. You didn't know it then, but your quiet obedience was louder than warfare. And now something is moving. Not because you finally shouted the right phrase, not because you followed a formula, but because your heart kept bowing even when life didn't. You need to hear this clearly. God is not just responding to you today. He's been recording you. The moments you thought were wasted, the nights where your worship looked like silence and surrender, where you barely got a word out but still lifted your hands. They were never missed. They were never ignored. They were never small. You see, most people think spiritual growth looks like a glow-up, like confidence, boldness, power. But there's a kind of sacred growth that only happens in obscurity, when no one is watching, when even you don't know if you're doing it right. And yet something ancient in you keeps saying, stay, trust, keep honoring. That's worship. That's warfare. And that's why this message found you today. This isn't about religion. It's about the decision you've made over and over again to keep showing up with your spirit open, even when your life felt shut down. You want to know what's rare? Not faith that celebrates miracles, but the kind that praises before they come. You didn't wait to feel strong. You didn't wait for evidence. You lifted your spirit like a cracked vessel, offering what little you had left, and God smiled and called that holy. Some people think heaven responds to performance, but heaven responds to posture. And you, my dear friend, have been posturing yourself in faith in a season that tried to break your rhythm, your joy, your voice, but you never left. You're still here. Let me say something most people won't tell you. Worship is not a vibe. It's not a song. It's not something you schedule into a Sunday morning. Worship is what happens when everything you counted on disappears, and instead of cursing, you start talking to God again. Even if all you say is, "I'm tired, but I still trust you." And that opens something. Not because your words are magical, but because your offering is honest. When a seed breaks open, it looks like destruction, but it's really birth. That's what your worship has looked like this season. It hasn't been poetic. It's been messy, ugly even, but it's real. And God never asked for a performance. He asked for your heart. And you gave it, not when things were perfect, but when they were painful. Now, this is what's shifting. What you've been doing in the shadows is about to be honored in the light. Not as a reward for being perfect, but as a recognition of what you survived while still choosing to believe. This is the moment where the echo begins, where heaven says, "You were never invisible. I saw you." You see, there's a kind of breakthrough that doesn't come by striving. It comes when the Spirit recognizes something familiar, a sound, a scent, a pattern that says, "This one didn't flinch. This one worshipped when it felt pointless. This one kept honoring when honor was mocked. This one stayed faithful when faith looked foolish." Heaven doesn't forget that, and you're not crazy for feeling like something is closing in, because something is, but not on you, on the barriers, on the delay, on the strongholds that thought they had time, because your worship has accelerated the timeline. The spiritual world doesn't just move by words, it moves by alignment. And the thing about you, You aligned in silence. You stayed soft when bitterness would have been easier. You praised when complaining would have made more sense. So, what's coming to you isn't just a reward. It's the natural response to what's been building for a long time. It's not random, it's righteous. Remember this, when Paul and Silas sang in prison, they weren't bargaining with God. They weren't singing to get out. They were praising in chains. And that sound, that posture, it broke something open that keys couldn't touch. Not because they shouted the loudest, but because they were already free before the doors opened. That's you now. Your worship didn't get you out of the fire. It proved you were fireproof. Let's be honest. Most people have no idea what it's like to lift their voice when their world is collapsing, to sing while grieving, to pray with a lump in your throat, to worship while your hands shake. But you do. And the power in that is this. When you worship from that place, you're not just expressing belief, you're enforcing it. You're declaring with your whole being, I still know who's in control. And the spirit realm responds, not with maybe, not with someday, but with movement. There are moments in your life that look still, but they're pregnant with divine interruption. That's where you are now. Something you sowed through groans, through tears, through obedience, has reached its moment of response. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of now. Because when God gets ready to respond to worship like yours, He doesn't send just comfort. He sends correction to the atmosphere. Everything around you is about to be realigned, and some of the people who never noticed your praise are about to witness the power it carried. Not so they applaud you, but so they recognize the one who carried you. Let me be even clearer. This is not a payout. This is prophecy catching up to its moment. This is the shift that happens when the sound of endurance in the dark is too loud for the next chapter to ignore. You didn't worship for this. You worshipped because you couldn't do anything else. Because praise was your oxygen when fear tried to choke you. Because honoring God was the only part of you that still felt alive some days. And now that worship is bearing weight in realms you can't see, doors are opening. Not because you earned them, but because you embodied something rare. Worship without performance, faith without feedback, obedience without recognition. That's the kind of character that can carry glory. And I want you to hear this deep in your spirit. God is not just proud of you. He's about to make space for you, not for status, but for assignment. Not to impress, but to impact. There's a table being set with your name on it, not because you demanded it, but because your worship qualified you. You didn't beg for elevation, you bowed, and that bowing became a beacon. Don't be surprised when people try to circle back. When doors that were closed start knocking from the other side. When blessings begin arriving with your name etched in eternal ink. They're not showing up because life turned around. Because heaven turned toward you a long time ago. This is just the reveal. So keep your posture. You don't need to shout. You don't need to prove. You don't even need to explain. Because when heaven confirms you, no earthly platform can discredit you. Let this be your reminder. Every song you sang through heartbreak, every prayer you mumbled through exhaustion, every whisper of, "Still, I trust you," it counted. It moved something. It built something. And now, it's birthing something. The silence you sat in? It wasn't a void. It was a womb. And now, it's time. This is the moment where your private surrender becomes public testimony. This is where worship speaks louder than wounds. This is where heaven says, "Well done. I've been listening all along." Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. If this message resonated, please like, share it with someone who might benefit, and subscribe to stay connected. Continue your awakening journey by choosing one of the videos on your screen that resonates with you the most. See you there.